Hello and welcome to this very special edition of The Lobby. We are shooting at the site of the Delhi International Airport. With me is a very special guest, Andrew Harrison. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure having you over.
Great to be here.
Huge site, enormous work going on. What is this? This is India's biggest project or second biggest project after Jamnagar?
I believe it will be the second biggest project, but it's certainly the first and largest PPP initiative in India in terms of the scale of the project and the timelines in which it's to be completed.
So is this one of the most, how many years have you spent, Andrew, doing these things, building airports?
Well, I've spent about now 20 years developing airports and improving them, improving the efficiency. But this is going to be one of the first times that I've been involved in a project that will be completed in such an aggressive timeline and to such a scale.
And is it one of the biggest airport projects that you worked on?
Comparably, yes, it will be one of the largest airport projects.
If you're looking down here, they're building these enormous pilings. How much higher does this go? I mean, that's the basement, and then it goes up. We're at the level of the basement roof?
Well, this level will start from ground level, and the absolute height will be a 12-story building. So it'll be a 12-story terminal building with a processing area. The processing area means both the check-in and the departures area of approximately 20 acres. And this compares to an airport international as big as Atlanta International in the U.S.,
right,
which is approximately 530 million square feet. This will be 5 million square feet.
5 million square feet of built-up area.
That's correct.
What's been the biggest challenge compared to your global experiences? What's been the biggest challenge that you faced here?
I think the biggest challenge, there are a number of them, but the first one was certainly the timeline. The master plan, which in an airport project internationally would normally take anywhere up to a year, is completed in 6 months. And that's largely because we engaged a fundamentally supportive EPC contractor, and our development team had worked very hard to ensure that the project could be executed in the timeline available.
Okay.
Secondly, we had a lot of land encroachments which had to be dealt with. The Ministry of Civil Aviation, the Government of India, and the Delhi authorities provided us with a great deal of support in ensuring that these encroachments were dealt with sensitively and professionally.
Now, and after that,
well, the other,
as you begin construction, engineering-wise, what's the big challenge?
Well, the big challenge, particularly in engineering terms, is completing this project. This project would have been completed in accordance with our contractual obligations within 37 months. A project of this scale would normally take between 60 to 72 months to complete. So internationally, anywhere else, absolutely. And there are a lot of people, I'm proud to say, that are coming here to us in India to find out how we're dealing with this challenge.
But how did you actually compress time, if I can say so? Compress time to almost half of what's required overseas.
Well, one of the things we have to do in terms of working not just harder but smarter and more efficiently is looking at technology. What type of technology could we import? To give you an idea, we've imported some technology which has never been used in India before in terms of paving, planing machines, in terms of steel rod bending machines, and in terms of concrete batching plants. The concrete batching plant that we have here in India is probably one of the largest batching plants in the whole of the southeast of Asia.
Right.
To try and quantify something else, if I tell you the amount of steel we're using for this project is enough to build 3 of the Calcutta-Howrah bridges all over again.
3 Howrah bridges. I'm from Calcutta.
Wow.
So I can visualize that. 3 Howrah bridges is the amount of steel that's going in here.
In this project, absolutely correct.
And how many people are actually working on this project?
Well, today, if we look at just the labor workforce that's on site, we have about 12,000 staff on site working here hard, very long hours, but working in a very safe environment.
Right.
And we have a very well-developed colony for them that includes rest and sleep areas, cooking facilities, canteen and cafe facilities, as well as round-the-clock medical facilities. So it's like a mini-city in its own right.
But when you needed to import equipment, when you needed to hire people, did you have to maintain a balance between the number of people you employed and the technology you were using? Or did you decide that, yes, it would make sense at the existing levels of efficiency to get in more capital?
Okay, to give you an idea, what did we do in terms of balancing between the two? The steel bending machine, for example, normally you'd need between 2,000 to 3,000 people just to deal with this level of bending work. Because of the technology that we've imported, we can do this with about 30 people.
Right.
Now, the reason we've had to do that is India's in the middle of a massive scale and phase of development.
Yes.
So it's a challenge getting skilled labor available to us to work on this project within those very, very constrained timelines. So we had to think smarter and think about technology supplementing skilled labor where possible.
And this shortage of skills that you're talking about, we've actually seen people from practically every sector. Media, my sector, from IT, software, education, everywhere we are facing this crunch because suddenly employment opportunities seem to have opened up faster than the people that can service it. Now, in what way can a project like this, one of the largest in India, in what way does it help employ more and more people to give them a better standard of living? And you're employing people from all over the country, right?
We are. One of the differences about this project is that we're employing people for longer. As I mentioned, this isn't a project where people come and work for 6 months and then leave. It'll be 37 months till completion, and we will upscale to about 20,000 laborers on site by the time the project reaches its peak of construction. The staff are learning new skills. They're learning innovative ways in which to do construction and development, and we hope that these skills would add value to the economy and the country as a whole as these laborers and staff move on to other projects within India.
So they are, beyond the point, they will move on to other projects and they're learning here.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've brought a lot of ability to train and impart knowledge to the laborers so they understand the techniques and the technologies being employed in this project.
And Andrew, tell me about the engineering challenges that you face on this project. We are standing in the middle of one of the largest, biggest construction projects that India has ever seen. So what's the big engineering problems? What were the main challenges at first that you faced, apart from the time constraint that you talked about?
One of the challenges have also been in terms of importing materials, getting the right quantity of materials, the right specification. We've had our staff and our teams travel around the world to try and determine where can we get the right quality of steel, where can we get the right quantity of steel, and can we get this quantity here on time.
And where did you find the steel in China?
Well, we've been around the world, so we're sourcing steel from different parts of the world. But China is one of the places that we're importing steel from. We've looked at, for example, a lot of the components that have to go into the terminal building, aero bridges, baggage handling systems. They're coming from all over the world. We have a large number of consultants from around the world who are working on this project, and I'm proud to say these consultants are learning many new things day in, day out. From India, just by being on this project.
And you tell me, how many countries have you lived in and worked in?
I've lived in 15 different countries to date, and India's, I have to tell you personally, India is one of the best countries that I've ever had to spend time in. Because one of the things about India that's amazing is I don't think there's any other country in the world that could meet the challenges that India is meeting today, particularly in the aviation sector. The growth in aviation across India in some areas has been as high as 40 to 50%. And we look at the number of increased air traffic movements that are being handled safely by our air traffic controls here in India. And we look at the number of passenger movements that have grown in the terminal environment. And albeit that whilst some delays are inevitable, they have largely stayed on top of that, and people are traveling more often for less money than any other time in the history of India.
But this is what you attribute this to, this working against very difficult constraints that India seems to excel at. How does it come from?
I think it comes from the very, very cultural fabric of the average Indian individual. There's a very entrepreneurial spirit that's inbuilt within every Indian. And I think that spirit has allowed them to meet challenges that other people simply could not meet.
Okay, Andrew. Actually, we use a word here, adjust. I mean, people adjust to practically any kind of hardships here.
That's right.
Work very hard. But Andrew, it was a pleasure talking to you. Welcome back. We are on one of the longest runways in the world. This is the new runway of the Delhi International Airport. We are here getting our boots dirty. But with me is a very special guest, Mr. D. Shantaraju.
Hi.
He's the CEO of this project, and he's the guy who's getting all the work done. Mr. Shantaraju, tell me, this is going to be what? One of the biggest runways, longest runways in the world?
Well, it is the second longest runway in the world, in Asia.
Yeah.
And among the sixth longest runways in the world. And it's from that end to east to west. It is 4,460 meters.
Yes.
And a little bit longer runway is in China. But that is not one of the major commercial airport runway. So when it comes to commercial airport runway, this is the longest runway in Asia.
But while you were building this runway, it's still being built. There's a lot of work going on. We see that. All these mountains of dirt that you've dug up, how much of that did you need to do? All the excavation, all the digging that needed to go on?
Well, when we have to build this runway, it is a 75 meter wide, and the intention is that it can take the load of aircraft. I mean, Airbus 380 can easily land on this runway.